We've been focusing on karuna, compassion, for these last few weeks, and we will continue to steep in this. So I have a question for you. How do we listen compassionately? How do we embody the qualities of Kuan Yin, bodhisattva of compassion, she who listens to the cries of the world? An old English definition or pronunciation of listen is lisna, to hear, to attend to, obey, pay attention, wait for a sound or signal. Mark Nepo, in his book, 7,000 Different Ways to Listen, and he wrote this book as he was losing his hearing. I'm sensitive to this because I, like many people, have hearing loss. And I recognize that all people do not have the ability to hear and listen with their ears. He shares different definitions and asks questions about listening that evoke images. Here are a few of them. How do we listen to what lives below whatever name we give it? Can we hear the rain on cobblestones? Can we listen like a hawk on a cliff, wings spread to the elements? Can we listen to the words that have not been believed? Can we listen to the way the cloud receives light and lets it through? Krista Tippett, in an interview on generous listening, said generous listening involves a kind of vulnerability, a willingness to be surprised, to let go of assumptions and take in ambiguity. I like that, a willingness to be surprised, to let go of assumptions and take in ambiguity. What is compassionate listening? What is deep listening? It's a listening that offers refuge. It is welcoming and offers hospitality. The listener sets the intention to remain calm. From Gregory Kramer's book, Insight Dialogue, he describes deep listening in this way. Listening is not only about sound. All of our senses, all of our being, listen. Listening is stillness and the vibrating of that stillness. When stillness deepens, the me, presumed to be at the center of the experience, is decentered. Receptive listening dissolves selfishness. Attention is not gathered around me and my needs. Attention is not gathered around me and my needs. Compassion asks us to move from a place of knowing based on our perceptions, assumptions, histories, conditionings, small, tight views, to a place of not knowing, a place of wonder, curiosity, interest, the willingness to be surprised and moved. Compassionate listening means I don't interrupt you. I don't push my agenda for what I would like to hear you say or what I think you should do. Compassionate listening is patient, and it should have a quality of suppleness. I'm going to talk a little bit more about suppleness tomorrow. And for sure, it has the intention to want to help. Compassionate listening requires that the listener be open and vulnerable to another's suffering and distress. And it really requires that we as listeners set the intention to ground ourselves, to remember to breathe and settle and calm and open to the best of our ability. And I love the story that Catherine brought in last week. I love this story, the rabbit who listened. And maybe those of you who have children or grandchildren really know this book. It just shows all the mistakes that well-intentioned people make when we think we are listening. And it points to how our inclinations toward particular views interfere with our ability to listen. That little boy, he makes a masterpiece with his blocks, and then it's blown away by a flock of birds, and he is just bereft. And all those well-meaning animals come to offer help. The bear is angry and says, "Of course you should be angry. Be angry about this." And the ostrich, forget about it. Just pretend like it never happened. Put your head in the sand. Forget about it. And the hyena is laughing and, come on, it's not a big deal. It's kind of funny. And then, of course, there was the snake. Oh, let's just go do this to someone else. I got to tell you, if I were asked to play one of the animals, I would want to play the snake. It's just so liberating to own these parts of ourselves. Sometimes it really is. Oh, that little boy doesn't want to listen to any of the suggestions that are made. And then all the animals kind of go off. And there's Rabbit, patiently waiting. And he comes a little closer. And then a little closer. And then he's sitting side by side. And in this space of quiet patience, the little boy's experience emerges. He begins to say how angry he was, how hurt he was, how he wanted to cry, how he wanted to pretend like it never happened, how he wanted revenge. And then he exclaimed, "I want to do this again. I want to build it again. I want to build it again." That rabbit was a compassionate presence. And we all know the tremendous relief when someone understands and just listens to us. Oh. I work with couples, and often at some point I introduce a practice known as eye to eye. I for initiator, the one who talks, and I for inquirer, the one who will listen. And it's a very, very structured practice, people often feel very constrained in it, and really they are. I bring this in because they've not been so effective in how they speak and listen to one another. And frankly, a lot of us haven't been so skilled at that. There have been a lot of bombs thrown and accusations, blame, hurt, all of that. I'm just going to focus on the listener because they are coached pretty deliberately and for a while. Even if you want to disagree, or you're activated, or you want to defend, you want to interrupt, you want to debate, you're not going to do that. You're going to stay quiet and you're going to listen. And every now and then, one of them says at one moment, whoa, I wanted to interrupt you. I felt myself getting so defensive, shutting down. I wanted to stop you. But I began to hear you. I began to hear how difficult this was for you. And that's a great moment. You see, listening offers possibilities. Out of the listening, possibilities emerge. So in our practice, we are all learning to be gracious hosts for whatever is arising. We're learning how to be more gracious with all of humanity, learning. And we're learning how to hold the shattered hearts and the hearts that are numb, the hearts that are closing down right now, and the hearts that are opening. They are all worthy of being held and listened to. Here comes my Siamese cat. You may hear her. Hello. Hello, Fred. I'm going to close with this from Mark Nepo. Listening requires letting go of our internal argument with the world. Before we can truly listen, we must exhaust ourselves of our assumptions. And truth, if we are ever to glimpse the world outside the stubborn certainty of our minds, we have to put down all ready answers to everything this necessitates. To everything. This necessitates an inner discipline so that I don't finish your sentence in my mind or search my storehouse of opinions for every rebuttal or defense of the world as I see it. Letting go of my internal argument with the world means not pushing off of everything that comes my way. It requires me looking at you as a sudden fish that has surfaced from the deep. It requires me bringing you water rather than any judgments. Think of a time when someone really listened to you. Thank you for listening.